Welcome to the Retirement Wealth Podcast. We're really glad you're joining us today.
Absolutely. It's great to be here.
So, have you ever heard of the Barista FIRE Strategy? It's a pretty interesting concept that's been gaining a lot of buzz lately.
Yeah, it really has. For those who might not know, the Barista FIRE Strategy is all about finding that sweet spot between retiring early and still having a little bit of income coming in, right?
Exactly. It's like a bridge between full retirement and working part-time, which can be so appealing, especially for those who want to enjoy life while still having a financial cushion.
And today, we're going to dive into how this strategy can fit into your retirement planning. We'll explore how to calculate your needs, the pros and cons, and some real-life examples of folks who've made it work.
Plus, we'll touch on some important considerations like healthcare and lifestyle choices, which can really make or break your retirement plan.
Right, and we want to make sure that our listeners feel empowered to make the best decisions for their futures, because retirement should be enjoyable, not just a number on a spreadsheet.
So, whether you're just starting to think about retirement or you're already knee-deep in planning, stick around. We've got some valuable insights coming your way.
Let's jump in. You know, Emily, the Barista FIRE Strategy is really timely right now, especially with everything going on in the economy. I mean, inflation has been a significant concern for many folks, right?
Absolutely, David. I've heard from listeners who are feeling the pinch at the grocery store. It's like prices keep creeping up, and that definitely impacts how much people need to save for retirement.
Exactly. And when we think about those retirement timelines, people are not just thinking about saving enough for, say, 20 or 30 years anymore. They're also considering how to stretch their dollars further in an environment where costs are rising.
Right, and that's where the Barista FIRE Strategy can really shine. It allows retirees to have that part-time job, like working at a coffee shop, hence the name, bringing in some income while still enjoying their retirement.
Yes! It's a way to mitigate the risk of market volatility, too. You know, if you're relying on your investments to provide all your income during a downturn, it can be pretty stressful. But if you have some steady income coming in, you can weather those storms a bit better.
And speaking of storms, we can't ignore the changes happening with Social Security. Aren't there some adjustments coming that could impact future benefits?
That's right. With the aging population and increasing costs, the Social Security Trust Fund is projected to deplete its reserves sooner than expected. So planning ahead is crucial. If your strategy relies heavily on Social Security, you might want to reconsider how you approach your retirement income.
Definitely. It's all interconnected. And let's not forget healthcare costs. They just keep climbing, don't they?
They do. A recent study suggested that a couple retiring today can expect to spend over $300,000 on healthcare throughout their retirement. That's a significant chunk of change.
Wow, that's eye-opening. And, many people don't factor that into their retirement planning. They focus so much on their daily expenses, they forget about those long-term health costs.
Exactly. That's why having a strategy like Barista FIRE can help. If you know you have some income coming in, it can ease that burden and give you some breathing room, especially when those healthcare bills hit.
And what about tax efficiency? I've noticed that many people don't think about how their withdrawals from retirement accounts could impact their tax situation.
Great point, Emily. Different income streams can affect your tax bracket. If you keep some income coming in from a part-time job, it might help you manage your withdrawals in a more tax-efficient way. You can strategically pull from your retirement accounts to minimize your tax hit.
Right, and then there's the emotional side of financial security. I think many people underestimate how peace of mind can affect their retirement experience.
Absolutely. Having a plan in place, knowing you have some flexibility, that can alleviate a lot of stress. I've spoken to retirees who say that the fear of running out of money keeps them up at night.
Yeah, and that's no way to enjoy retirement. I've heard stories from retirees who, after adopting a part-time job strategy, felt a renewed sense of purpose and community. It's like they're not just surviving, they're thriving.
That's a wonderful way to put it. It's about reimagining retirement, right? It's not just about stopping work altogether. It's about finding balance and fulfillment.
Exactly. And I think with current economic trends, it's more important than ever for people to consider how they can create a sustainable lifestyle for themselves in retirement.
For sure. I mean, when you look at the volatility in the stock market, and the uncertainty with inflation, it's crucial to have a backup plan. You don't want to be fully reliant on a single source of income or investment returns.
And so many people are still under the impression that they need to have millions saved up to retire comfortably. But with the right strategies, they may not need as much as they think if they incorporate ideas like Barista FIRE.
Absolutely. I've seen countless examples of people who were able to retire comfortably with a lower nest egg than they expected, simply by being strategic about their income sources.
It all comes down to planning, doesn't it? And starting early, if possible. That way, you can build those alternative income streams over time.
Definitely. And for those who are nearing retirement, it's never too late to start thinking about these options. It's all about being proactive rather than reactive.
And I think there's something really empowering about taking control of your retirement plan. It's not just about numbers. It's about creating a lifestyle you love.
Well said, Emily. Now that we've laid out why this matters so much right now, let's dive into some core strategies that people can use to make the Barista FIRE approach work for them. So let's dive into some core strategies and rules of thumb that can really help with this Barista FIRE approach. One of the first things we should talk about is asset allocation.
Absolutely. Asset allocation is so crucial. It's like the foundation of your investment strategy, right?
Exactly. A common rule of thumb is the 70-30 portfolio. That's 70% in stocks and 30% in bonds. This can give you a good balance between growth and stability.
Right, and the idea is that the stocks will provide growth over time, while the bonds can help cushion against market volatility.
Yes, and it's important to adjust that allocation as you get closer to retirement. You might want to gradually shift to a more conservative approach like 60-40 or even 50-50, depending on your risk tolerance and how soon you plan to tap into those funds.
Speaking of tapping into funds, let's talk about those tax-advantaged accounts. They're a game changer, aren't they?
They really are. Utilizing accounts like 401ks and IRAs can significantly boost your retirement savings. For instance, with a 401k, you can contribute up to $20,500 as of 2023. And if you're over 50, there's a catch-up contribution limit of an additional $6,500.
That's a great way to maximize your savings. And what about IRAs?
With IRAs, you can contribute up to $6,500 plus the catch-up contribution if you're over 50. And the beauty of these accounts is that the growth is tax-deferred or tax-free in the case of Roth IRAs.
Right. And the Roth IRA is particularly appealing because you pay taxes on the contributions, but withdrawals in retirement are tax-free.
Exactly. That can really help with tax planning down the road. But remember, there are income limits for contributing to a Roth, so it's worth checking those out.
Another critical aspect is Social Security optimization. Many people don't realize how important it is to strategize when to take those benefits.
For sure. The longer you wait to take Social Security, the higher your monthly benefit will be. You can start as early as 62, but if you wait until your full retirement age, let's say 67 for most people, you'll get a larger payout. And if you wait until 70, it can increase even further.
So if someone is planning for the Barista FIRE strategy, perhaps they'd want to delay claiming Social Security to maximize their benefits?
Yes, that can be a smart move. If you're drawing down from other investments in the meantime, that gives your Social Security benefits time to grow. It's all about balancing your cash flow needs with long-term growth.
And withdrawal strategies play a huge role here too. The 4% rule is often mentioned, right?
Yes, the 4% rule suggests that you can withdraw 4% of your initial retirement portfolio annually, adjusted for inflation, and have a reasonable chance of not running out of money over a 30-year retirement.
But it's worth noting that this isn't a one-size-fits-all approach.
Exactly. Market conditions and personal circumstances can vary. Some folks might want to adopt a bucket strategy instead, where you divide your assets into different buckets for short-term, medium-term, and long-term needs.
That sounds interesting. How does that work exactly?
Well, you could have one bucket for immediate needs, using cash or bonds, another for more medium-term needs with a mix of stocks and bonds, and a long-term bucket that's more aggressive, invested in stocks for growth.
So it's about having the right funds available when you need them, rather than relying on one single withdrawal percentage across the board.
Exactly, and that can provide more peace of mind knowing you're not forced to sell investments in a downturn.
And let's not forget about diversification. It's crucial to spread your investments across various asset classes.
Yes, diversification is key to managing risk. If one sector is underperforming, others might be doing well, which can help stabilize your overall portfolio.
Can you give an example of how that might look in practice?
Sure. Let's say you have a portfolio consisting of U.S. stocks, international stocks, bonds, and maybe some real estate investment trusts, REITs. If the U.S. stock market takes a hit, your bonds or international stocks might hold up better, helping reduce the overall impact on your portfolio.
That makes sense. And real estate can also provide diversification and potential income as well.
Absolutely. Real estate can serve as both a growth and income-generating asset. Just keep in mind that it comes with its own set of risks and management responsibilities.
Right, and then there are also tax savings techniques we should mention, like tax loss harvesting or taking advantage of health savings accounts, HSAs.
Yes, tax loss harvesting can help offset gains by selling underperforming investments. And HSAs can be a fantastic tool because they offer triple tax benefits. Contributions are tax deductible, the growth is tax-free, and withdrawals for qualified medical expenses are also tax-free.
That's a powerful strategy.
It really is. Utilizing these various strategies effectively can help you create a solid plan for your Barista FIRE journey. But
there are definitely common pitfalls we need to be aware of, right?
Exactly. Let's talk about that next. You know, Emily, one of the most common pitfalls I see with the Barista FIRE strategy is the sequence of returns risk. It's kind of a fancy term, but it really just refers to the order in which investment returns occur.
Right, and that can have a huge impact, can't it? Like, if someone starts withdrawing from their investments during a market downturn, that can really hurt their long-term financial health.
Exactly. I had a client, let's call him Tom. He was all set to retire early, really excited about it, but then, just as he started drawing from his investments, the market took a nosedive.
Ouch, that's tough.
Yeah, it is. So instead of letting his investments recover, he was forced to sell at a loss to cover his living expenses. It really set back his plans.
So what can folks do to avoid that?
One strategy is to have a cash reserve or a more conservative portfolio for the first few years of retirement. This way, if the market dips, they're not forced to sell their stocks at a bad time.
That makes a lot of sense. And what about taxes? I feel like that's another area where people can trip up.
Absolutely. A common mistake is not considering the tax implications of their withdrawals. Many retirees underestimate how much taxes can eat into their retirement income.
Can you give an example of that?
Sure. Imagine a couple. Let's call them Sarah and Mike. They were excited to start traveling in retirement, but they didn't factor in the taxes on their IRA withdrawals.
So they ended up taking out more than they needed, thinking it was all theirs to spend.
Exactly. And then they were hit with a hefty tax bill, which reduced their available cash for those trips they had planned.
That's a painful lesson.
Right? It's crucial to plan for taxes up front. I always advise my clients to work with a tax professional in the years leading up to retirement to strategize their withdrawals.
Makes sense. And then there's healthcare costs.
Oh, definitely. People often underestimate those. They think, I'll be fine, I'm healthy. But healthcare can be one of the largest expenses in retirement.
I can imagine.
I had a client, let's call her Linda. She was healthy at retirement and didn't budget much for healthcare. Well, a couple of years in, she had an unexpected medical issue that required a lot of treatment.
That must have been a shock for her.
Yes, it was. She had to tap into her retirement savings more than she planned, which really stressed her financially.
So what would you recommend people do to prepare for that?
I suggest not only budgeting for regular healthcare costs, but also considering long-term care insurance. It's important to have a plan for potential healthcare expenses that could arise later in life.
And what about longevity? That ties into healthcare, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Many people underestimate how long they might live. They plan for 20 years, but what if they live for 30 or even 40 years in retirement?
Wow, that's a lot of time to cover financially.
It really is. I had a couple, let's call them Jim and Carol. They planned for a 25-year retirement, but they both ended up living into their 90s.
So they ran out of money.
Not completely, but they had to drastically cut back on their lifestyle. can be really distressing to see that happen.
So how can someone plan for that?
It's about building a sustainable withdrawal strategy, considering inflation, and possibly even delaying Social Security to increase their monthly benefit.
Oh, that's a good segue into Social Security. I know people often claim that too early, right?
Yes, that's a big mistake. Claiming Social Security benefits at 62 might seem tempting, but it can significantly reduce your overall lifetime benefits.
Can you elaborate on that?
Sure, I had a client named Mark who claimed his benefits early because he wanted the immediate cash flow. But in doing so, he locked in a lower monthly benefit for the rest of his life.
And that's a long time to live with a reduced income.
Exactly. If he had waited until his full retirement age, or even longer, he could have increased his benefits by up to 30%.
Wow, that's significant.
It really is. The decision on when to claim Social Security is crucial, and it's worth looking at your entire financial picture before jumping in.
So what are some red flags people should look out for early on in their retirement planning?
Well, if you notice that you're relying heavily on one source of income, that's a red flag. Or if you haven't run any what-if scenarios, like what happens if the market drops, or if you have unexpected expenses, you should definitely dig deeper.
That makes sense. It's so important to be proactive rather than reactive.
Exactly. And another one is not having a diversified portfolio. Relying too much on stocks or bonds can expose you to more risk than necessary.
And that could really hurt in a downturn, right?
Yes, it can. A well-diversified portfolio can help cushion against those bumps in the road.
So, what should listeners do if they realize they've fallen into one of these traps?
First, take a breath. It's never too late to reassess and make adjustments. Consulting with a financial advisor can provide clarity and help build a more robust strategy going forward.
Definitely. It's all about being proactive and making informed choices.
Exactly. And it's better to address these issues now rather than wait until you're knee-deep in a crisis.
Great advice, David. Let's transition into next steps for our listeners.
Sounds good.
So what are some actionable steps they can take today to start fine-tuning their retirement plans?
All right. So now that we've explored the Barista FIRE strategy, let's talk about some immediate steps you can take. I mean, there's a lot you can do right now to start shaping your retirement journey.
Absolutely. I think the first thing is to really assess where you stand financially. You can use some online tools like retirement calculators. Vanguard, Fidelity, and Schwab all have great calculators that can help you understand how much you'll need to save and how your investments might grow over time.
Yeah, those calculators can be quite eye-opening. You just plug in your current savings, your expected retirement age, and your estimated expenses. It gives you a clearer picture of what you might need to aim for.
Right. And if you're feeling a bit overwhelmed, you can also check out ssa.gov for your Social Security benefits. It's a good way to see what you can expect from Social Security, which is a critical piece of the puzzle.
Definitely. And don't forget about the tax implications. You might want to consider using tax software to help you plan. Understanding your tax situation can really affect your net income in retirement.
That's so true. And speaking of planning, there are some fantastic financial planning apps out there. Tools like Mint or Personal Capital can help you track your spending and savings, and they're pretty user-friendly.
Exactly. And I always suggest setting a habit of reviewing your portfolio quarterly. It's a great way to stay on top of your investments and make adjustments as needed. You don't want to wait until the market shifts to look at your plan.
Yeah, and running retirement projections regularly can help too, just to see if you're still on track for your goals. I mean, it doesn't have to be complicated. Just a simple check-in every few months could make a big difference.
And if you're looking for more resources, there are some really insightful books and podcasts out there. I mean, The Simple Path to Wealth by J.L. Collins is a great read. His perspective on investing and retirement is really refreshing.
Oh, I love that one. And there's also the Choose FI podcast. They dig into financial independence and have a lot of practical advice. It's really inspiring.
For sure. And, just getting into the habit of reading or listening to those resources can keep you motivated. It's all about continuous learning, right?
Exactly. And even if you're already retired, it's never too late to improve your plan. Small changes can lead to significant impacts over time.
That's a great point. Just because you're in retirement doesn't mean you should stop planning. Staying engaged with your finances can help you feel more secure and confident.
And I think that's a big part of the Barista FIRE strategy. It's about finding that balance and being proactive instead of reactive.
Right, and take it one step at a time. Maybe start with that portfolio review, then move on to a retirement projection and so on. It doesn't have to be overwhelming.
Yeah, and if you feel like you need a little extra help, don't hesitate to reach out to a financial advisor. They can help tailor a strategy that fits your specific situation.
Absolutely. And remember, you don't have to have everything figured out today. Just taking those small steps can lead to big changes down the road.
So true. With all these tools and strategies, you can really start to take control of your retirement planning.
And with those practical first steps outlined, it's exciting to think about the possibilities. Now let's recap what we've covered today. Well, Emily, I think we've really unpacked the Barista FIRE strategy today.
Absolutely, David. It's quite fascinating how it allows folks to pursue their passions while still securing their financial future, right?
Yeah, and one of the key takeaways is that it's all about finding that balance between working part-time and enjoying life without completely relying on your retirement savings.
Right. Another important point is understanding your spending needs and how that plays a huge role in determining how much you need to save before transitioning into a Barista FIRE lifestyle.
And let's not forget, the flexibility this strategy offers is a game changer. It gives you the freedom to adjust your plans as life changes, which is something we all appreciate.
Exactly. It's like having a safety net while you explore new opportunities. And of course, it's vital to have a solid financial plan in place to support your decisions along the way.
That's so true. Building and protecting your retirement wealth really comes down to understanding your options and making informed choices that align with your personal goals.
And speaking of choices, listeners, if you found value in our discussion today, we'd love for you to like this episode, subscribe to our channel, and share your biggest takeaway or any questions you have in the comments.
And don't forget to share this episode with someone who's planning for or already enjoying their retirement. It could really help them.
Next time, we'll dive into a topic that's crucial for many retirees: how to protect assets from lawsuits in retirement. It's something that affects more people than you might think.
Definitely a must listen, so be sure to tune in.
Thank you all for joining us today.
Take care, everyone, and until next time, keep building that retirement wealth.